up, everybody, and welcome to a brand new episode of Six Studios. And today's a very special episode because it marks the first of 3 Mortal Kombat themed builds that we will be doing here. 2 Funko Pops, complete with custom base, and the third and final round being a Mortal Kombat Dragon logo themed hubcap. Oh yeah, balls to the wall on this one. Now the first Funko Pop that we're going to be repainting is the Subzero, based off the Mortal Kombat 2021 film. Now, this is the first Funko Pop that I've ever repainted, so I'm anxious to get to work on them. Now this Funko Pop actually has a lot of detail in it, and it's going to be really fun to do all those highlights and bring that to the forefront. But what we have to do first is actually take the head off. Now when it comes to taking the heads off of these guys, I've actually come across 3 different ways of doing it. None of them which I've actually tried before, so it's going to be a trial and error run here. First is a hairdryer, second is a heat gun, and the third is mostly boiling water. Kind of want to not do the heat gun because I think it'll be a little too strong and it might completely melt the pop. Again, I'm not sure, so we're going to try the hairdryer first and then the boiling water, and if all else fails, then the heat gun. But I really hope we don't have to. Now, I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of work to do at all, so this plus the base should make for a quick and easy project, and I'm really excited to work on it. What do you think, Joe?
Sounds good to me! Round 1! Fight!
Let's get to work. Okay, so first off, like I said, there's a few different ways to do this. I don't know if this is going to work, but we're going to try the hairdryer method. Basically, we're going to hit with the hairdryer right on the inside, right where the little nub goes into the head. And the idea is just to heat it up just enough where that it loosens it up, and then we could just pop the head right off. I think a heat gun might be a little too strong, so that's why we're just going to leave this nozzle on the hairdryer and put it on the heat setting, and hopefully that'll work. Boy, that was tough. Okay, so this is far more difficult to pull apart than I thought it was going to be, but we got there in the end. Now, taking the head off is going to make it a lot easier to paint those details that are right in there. But first, before we do any kind of painting or washing of any kind, we need to hit it with a matte clear coat spray. So now that that's done, and we have our assortment of colors that we'll need, including the fake snow, the process will go as follows. We're going to paint everything black, minus the skin and the little ice sword here, and that's going to act as a base for when we go into the armor with the silver, and then eventually dry brush the metallic blue on the armor, and then the regular blue onto the clothing. We're also going to be covering the mask in black because when we do go over that with silver, the base coat of black will help the metallic paint really shine after the fact. In the movie, the costume is incredible, but it's very misleading because of all the different lighting that is used. Sometimes it looks black, sometimes it's blue, sometimes it could be silver, maybe even brown/bronze sometimes. And honestly, it was hard to get a really good photo of it, so we're just going to kind of wing it and make it our own thing. So you can see the clear difference between both sides of that, and that matte finish is exactly what I want out of the black acrylic. Now I'm going to do the rest of the mask and the other half of the head, and then I'm going to dry brush white on it to highlight those details and really make them stand out. Not too much, but subtly. So now we're going to do the same thing with his body and the armor, and then we're going to go over the armor with the silver and then dry brush a metallic blue onto it afterwards. Really give it that metallic look. So now we're going to go into all the armored sections with this silver and then follow it up with a metallic blue, or otherwise known as ice blue. Because of course, it's Sub-Zero. Now you may have noticed that through this process, all I did for the silver and the blue was dry brush it on. Now the reason being is so that metallic paint underneath the silver can shine through, and also in certain lighting look different in certain ways. Sometimes it's blue, sometimes it's silver, but the detail still remains. But now we're going to go in with the silver yet again and just dry brush the high spots, just to bring out that detail just a little bit more while it still stays blue. Okay, so this next step is very interesting because if we look at the screen use suit from the film, the black parts actually have blue in them. And in certain light, it looks like a very, very deep blue, but it could also be black. It really plays with your eyes in that sense. Shout out to the costume department on that. Anyway, we're going to put even less paint on the brush than we do when we're dry brushing, and we're going to go into all the black portions and just ever so slightly highlight them with blue. And from there, our focus is going to be on the head sculpt. Alright, so the next step before the base is the ice sword. Now for this, there's not a whole lot that's going to be done. We're going to take this pool blue acrylic and just give it a quick dry brushing down the middle. And then what we're going to do is go in with this snow text from Deco Art. We're going to build it up, make it look like snow, kind of frosted over. And then we're going to dry brush some white onto it after that. Give it that nice ice look. And this stuff is actually pretty cool. I used it once before and only once, but basically you just kind of scoop it out and just kind of feather it on like so, and it just kind of builds up along the edge there as if it's in fact snow. And when you're doing stuff like ice or snow, anything of the sort, really kind of takes it to that next level. Almost gives like a textured look. Yeah, I like that. Okay, so now it's time to work on the base. Now the base, what we're going to do is this piece of wood is going to serve as our base. And we're going to take 5mm craft foam. I actually have an offcut of this because I worked on a Sub-Zero cosplay as well as a Scorpion cosplay, but more on that later. We're going to put one layer down there, and then we're going to build up a second and possibly a third in the back, as well as a second layer in the front. And the idea is to make it seem like he's standing in a mound of snow. And it's going to be built up a little bit on the back, a little bit in the front. The snow is not level. We're going to keep that in mind as we're doing this. It's going to be a lot of grinding away with a Dremel, but after that we're going to hit it with some Plasti Dip, followed by some white acrylic paint just to dry brush it on, and then we're going to follow it up with that same snow text stuff that we just used for the sword, and then a little something extra, but we'll get to that in a second. So here we go. We're going to cut out the foam accordingly. So now we're going to take the sanding bit for our Dremel and then grind away at it and basically just try to make it like a nice snowbank. We might have to add a little bit more foam to it, but the basic idea is already in motion. We're going to shave down not only the edges but also the high spots to make it look a little bit more natural, like a snowbank. Alright, slight change of plans on the big one. Instead of making it a snowbank, we're actually going to take the X-Acto knife and chip away at it, and we're just going to make it a big rock structure. Okay, we're looking good so far. Now next up, what we're going to do is hit it with a black Plasti Dip. Now what this does is that it seals up the foam, which is normally very porous, and after about 3 or 4 coats and letting it sit for a while, it'll be ready to be painted. And we're going to go into all these areas with that snow mix and really build it up by layer and give it the impression that Sub-Zero is standing in the snow. Alright, so the next few steps are as follows. 1, we're going to take the black acrylic paint and do the bottom rim. 2, we're going to take this wicker white acrylic paint and just dry brush the snowy areas, because that's going to act as almost like a mid-base primer for this snow stuff like we talked about earlier. But before we do the snow, we're going to dry brush this gray onto the rocks, and then we're going to go into the snow. And then after that, maybe just add a dash of blood, because like I said, this is Mortal Kombat after all, and what would it be without blood? Alright, finally is the moment we've all been waiting for, putting down the snow. Cloudy with a chance of snow. That was a terrible joke, by the way. Using this stuff on something this big, we're basically just going to be piling it on and trying to build up the layers, just to make it look a little bit more natural, not just painted white. So this may take a few passes, but I think it's going to turn out great. Cut and print, that's a wrap on the Sub-Zero Funko Pop Repaint. I actually love how this one turned out, and it was a lot of fun to do because it was a nice quick little project as opposed to my other projects, which tend to take a little while, but that's okay too. Now I know it goes back and forth in the Funko Pop community. If you repaint one of them, the value will go down. Honestly, I was never one of those guys to keep his comics wrapped in plastic, so it's whatever you want to do. This is 6 Studios, people. We're not going to judge. Go crazy, because that's what it's all about. And if you like this and want to check out others, find my Instagram over here, my Facebook page over here, and until next time, stay weird, stay tuned.